This is KGW News at noon.
Today also marks 1 year since the murder of George Floyd, and memorials are planned around the country today. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Drew Carney. George Floyd's death is still fueling calls for the federal police reform that was promised by President Biden but is now stalled in Congress. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez has more from Minneapolis.
There are remembrances planned here at George Floyd Square throughout the day, and Minnesota's governor is calling for a period of silence, 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Of course, that's the amount of time that former officer Derek Chauvin knelt on George Floyd's neck. Now, members of the Floyd family are heading to Washington today and are expected to meet with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi as well as President Biden. Some members of the Floyd family tell me that they are disappointed that Congress could not pass a federal police reform bill before President Biden's self-imposed deadline, which was supposed to be today. Now, one of the key sticking points appears to be potentially ending qualified immunity, making it easier for people to sue police officers. Many Republicans don't want that added to the bill. Still, many activists say they are willing to hold out to keep it in. As for Minneapolis, this is a changed city, even from a few weeks ago before the guilty verdict. The barbed wire and the National Guard troops are gone, but there are still people here that desperately want to see changes to policing around this country. Now, Derek Chauvin's sentencing is scheduled for later next month, and the trial for the 3 other officers involved in this case has been moved until next year. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Minneapolis.
We want to let you know that we just learned about a shooting that happened this morning in that same spot where Gabe Gutierrez was standing for that report. This video shows people running, several gunshots fired there. This happened just after events marking Floyd's death were set to begin. We know one person is hurt, but police haven't confirmed yet if the shooting was related to today's anniversary events. People in Portland, meanwhile, have been taking note of the anniversary of George Floyd's death. Over the weekend, we saw a march and an event where people talked about the progress that's been made over the course of the past year.
I feel like there's been progress with government, which I feel like is a newer thing. And I think people in general have a language for racism that hasn't been as commonplace before.
Well, today, Oregon lawmakers will hold a virtual press conference in Salem to discuss proposed legislation that will reduce racial disparities and promote racial justice. House Bill 2002 would, first of all, create limits to the authority of officers in traffic stops and arrests. It would establish funding for transition programs to help people re-enter the community after being in prison. And it would also invest in programs for targeted community policing and justice in underserved communities. There's also a rally planned for George Floyd tonight at the Justice Center in downtown Portland. In other local news this afternoon, Clackamas High School is dealing with the fallout from an incident that happened sometime between the end of last school week and the beginning of this one. When the school's principal showed up for work on Monday, he found the front of the building covered in Trump stickers and refried beans were smeared on the doors. Principal Nate Munoz described what he saw with this emotional video online. The principal said he thinks this started as a prank because there was also a tree wrapped in toilet paper, but what the school was really left with was a hateful message towards Latinx people.
That type of rhetoric is not welcome at Clackamas High School, ever. And we need to be better for this because of this.
Over the next 2 weeks, Clackamas High will hold forums to let students voice their feelings about this incident. Later today, Governor Brown is expected to approve Multnomah County's request to move to the lower risk category for COVID. At least 65% of the county's residents have had at least 1 dose of the vaccine at this point. The county also submitted a plan outlining how it will close the equity gaps in its vaccination efforts. Multnomah County asked to move to lower risk by tomorrow, but we expect the governor to approve the change to happen on Thursday.